really excited about tonight's broadcast. Uh, Big Bird said he didn't see a lot of stuff. So, but he told me he offered to plug in the holes, which I'm sure will be plenty of holes. Be like I'm like sort of the Swiss cheese. Like I'm a little over here, a little over there, and he'll be able to like kind of put things together. But in terms of the little boost of the ISO 222 points in the last week or so got my juices flowing a little bit, and it added to the excitement. Let's see, we're adding a Montimus.
How about now?
Beautiful.
There he is.
Okay,
It was something in the restream. I had to, once I closed it and reopened it, actually worked because I checked on my recorder.
Could be. So, Monimus, I want to run this by you because but I am so excited right now. Why? Because of what Scott Bessent said. Basically, he said, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but he basically told the bad guys, "We're coming after you. We got the goods. We got AI bloodhounds tracking down the little note you sent during a restaurant extravaganza with your little perverted pedophile people. We got that. We got everything, and we're going to trace every little shard of information back to its source." So they're offering. It seems to me, and I was listening to Mark Z today. I'm like, Mark Z, for 5-10 years has been telling us the dinars is going to get revalued this week, and he's still doing it. But here, this is why I'm excited. I really find that I have a trouble with that because I have a friend who lost a lot of money listening to our Mark Z, and I find it a little problematic. But the idea now, what I'm seeing from Scott Bessent, and I'm not saying like next week or a month or any kind of date, but I think soon they are routing out the bad guys. They are separating Iran from Iraq. Remember, this is the proxy powerhouse of the deep state. This is where Obama sent his pallets of cash. This is where China and all the evil players in the deep state, the pedophiles, the Draco reptilians, the Illuminati elite, all the creepazoids, where they didn't intersect in Ukraine, it spilled over to Iran. Those were their two kind of like battleground positions. So what Scott Bessent and what President Trump, as part of the movie, I mean, I don't personally believe that's really President Trump. I don't, it's just like, but that's besides the point. It doesn't matter. We're watching a movie. But this is the part of the movie where they're taking down the bad guys. They are separating Iran from Iraq. And as a former Zionist type person, I mean, this is like what the Yidden have been waiting for years. But I don't want to get into that layer of this information. The fact of the matter is, what I'm seeing is that Scott Bessent is saying, you're either with us or against us. He is throwing down the gauntlet. And it is, all the people who are hedging their bets, and specifically Iraq. There are a lot of corrupt forces within Iraq. And if you think about it, the deep state sent America sent our brave boys to Iraq to perpetrate child trafficking, money laundering, drug running, gun smuggling, maybe even portal stealing, this kind of thing. So this is, in my opinion, that Scott Bessent has drawn the red line and said, we're going to take you out basically either way. But if you can try to make nicey with us, we're still going to take you out. Or you can try to go against us, and we're going to take you out. This is a no-win final. What was the battle in the Napoleonic Wars? Waterloo event, in my opinion. This is the last standout, the last house standing of the deep state corrupt pedophilic, money laundering corporate. And that's a word that I haven't really been including in my list of all the deep state, the medical community, big pharma, the legal community, the financial community, the educational community, the weather community. I just spoke to a rancher out here, and he said he bought 300 head of cattle. I'm like, Levy, that's amazing. He said, well, the weather is better this year. Why is the weather better? Because the creepazoid criminals who have been controlling our skies with the chemtrails have, at least in this area, have been cut down to size. Apparently, there are still some private planes running it, but it's not like the deep state military operation that it was. Has completely drained Arizona of water over the last, according to my local sources, 11 years. So we are at the end game here. And this to me is like, like I said, I'm still listening to, I listened to Mark Z saying, he knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who went into a bank, and they had this conversation. It's like, this is all bullshit hearsay. When you hear Scott Bessent, who the actor playing President Trump has said central casting. Doesn't he look like central casting? He's handsome. He's everything you would think of in a treasury kind of guy. And when he gets out there in this movie and he says, okay, this morning, and they started this morning, they said, we are going after you. We are putting all our bloodhounds. We have all the information. You can decide. You can either you can eat your spinach hot or you can eat your spinach cold, but you're gonna eat your spinach now because they are done. And this is to me is just a colossal. I just have a colossal feeling that, and time wise, it doesn't matter because what we're talking about are shifts in consciousness. That a shift consciousness has taken place. Whether it comes out now, all the people on X are saying the Dinar is this week, next week. That's just total bullshit. But the fact of the matter, when I see Scott Bessent really saying to the bad guys, to the deep state, to their last playground, we're taking you out. The time is of no importance. But the point is that it's happening, man, and I'm sure Monty can add more clarity and more a more rational perhaps viewpoint. And I'm not. Nobody could accuse me of being rational, but I'm sure you guys will be able to fill in the holes. But I'm just really excited.
Well, before I let Monty rip away and steal my thunder here, I want to put a couple of plugs in real quick. So keep in mind, Executive Order 13818 and 13848. Okay, one specifically dealing with election interference, and the other dealing with human trafficking in persons. Okay, those are two major forms of income for the deep state.
And they are integrated with each other.
And they are integrated with each other. So what's the one way we get at people? You follow the money. So Bessent's on the paper trail. He's looking at where all the dollars and cents are going. He's looking at the NGOs. He's tracking them down. He's using AI. He's using Doge. All this stuff, all these tools at his hand. And I want to say about a year and a half, 2 years ago, there was a document circulating around, and I cannot find it to save my life. But this document supposedly came from the U.S. Treasury, and it was about 1,200 pages long, and it was dealing with seized assets under the purview of the U.S. Treasury. That blew my mind. That told me right then and there that there has been something going on for a really long time, for years, if not decades, that the U.S. government, or the continuity of government, not the corporate de facto government, but in fact, I hate using this term, but the white hat army, the good guys, they're out there and they are just taking it by storm. I mean, this is a financial warfare of Armageddon, and they are going for blood. They are going to take the deep state out totally and completely. I think in previous shows, I've listed some of the boogeymen that are out there. You had Venezuela, You got Cuba, North Korea, which Crazy Kim and Trump are on good terms. Trump actually writes him handwritten letters because nobody can see what's in it. They can't trace the phone call. They can't listen in. There's no emails. There's nothing. It's literally handwritten letters, and this is correspondence going between two leaders of two very powerful countries. Now, then you've got Syria, you've got Iran, right? Iran has been the honeypot the whole time. Ukraine has been kind of a distraction. I mean, this isn't me saying it. This was Victoria Nuland, who was she was the secretary, something rather for Ukraine, admitted on live TV that there's 33 U.S. funded biolabs in Ukraine. And for anybody out there that wants to dispute this, that's what Putin was going after with his military, was the biolabs.
And the reason they doubled down on him was because he was also trying to bypass the central bankers.
And he was protecting his people, because that was right on the border of his country, and it posed a clear and present danger to the Russian people. So he took that very seriously, and he said, look, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to demolish this stuff. And he did.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
well, and you just mentioned Syria too, and Syria was just taken off of the state-sponsored terrorism list after 47 years. Meanwhile, Iran, in the same breath, is being doubled down. And what's fascinating about that, with what you were just talking about with Bessent, is the plan that they just unleashed to completely isolate Iran electronically has some teeth in it for those that are helping Iran, for those holdouts that are still here and there, getting. But what it's doing is it's giving them an opportunity to say comply before punishment, which I find, that's obviously always fits Trump's motto. And it is also interesting in what Ellie, you were just talking about with Iran and with what's going on with Iraq, how much difference they made. Because on one hand, we're seeing, Iran had, according to Iran's own numbers, their inflation is 88.6.7%, something like that, 123% increase in their grocery cost. It's insane. They just topped over 2 million Iranian rial to the dollar, whereas Baghdad's moving the opposite direction. So we're seeing a very deliberate and big distinction between those two. And there's a lot going on with that, of course. September 15th is a deadline for, that's the date that we're supposed to be seeing potentially, right, vote on the Clarity Act here. Well, that also happens to be the deadline for certain things that are going on in Iraq. And right now, as they're printing new currency, they printed new lower denom currency in 2014, but now they've just issued buy order and got some others going on. Well, who's doing that? It's Louisenthal and Giuseppe Devrient, which is of Munich, because you got France and Germany, and they commit the paper. But now all of a sudden, Iraq says, well, hey, let's get Britain and Australia in there too. You don't double your currency printing if you don't need it in time for something. Right, there's some speed going on. But what's also interesting is the fact that, and it's the same paper company that's working with Bank of Ghana, was working with Eswatini, and so on. But it's the corporate family that's supplying that security paper is also fascinating, because that network ties back to the same companies that are pushing, in the printers, the same companies that are pushing CBDC, and is partly owned by Ripple. So now we see it tie back into what's going on with crypto. And it's this complete circle that when we sit here and we look at all these pieces of the puzzle, there's dot after dot after dot that are all essentially the same puzzle connecting together, and like Big Bird just mentioned, Ukraine. Hi.
Hey, Mark.
Like Big Bird just mentioned, Ukraine, and obviously there was a deep state money laundering, and that part's not surprising. I mean, Biden sat up there and bragged, hey, they're not going to get the billion if they don't adhere to our blackmail, et cetera, et cetera. Well, then they tried to blame Trump for that, and there's a whole nother series behind that. But there was some reasons they were pushing the financing into that. And then, like the other ones that Big Bird just brought up, Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, and this is to your point, Ellie, Iran is really the head of that deep state snake. I don't know if it's the last holdout, per se, but it's definitely one of the biggest ones, and it's definitely the key player in that region. And especially, even right now, I mean, you're looking at Iraq's. Right now, they're 10 trillion dinars short of their monthly budget, being able to make salaries and such. And a lot of that's because they're only getting 2 trillion of that through the oil revenues because it's choked out with Hormuz. So all this stuff is starting to culminate right together in timelines, um, and it's fascinating because even as we speak, they're removing the 3 zeros. That is in process. They finally admitted it. They came out a couple days ago and said, "Hey, we're not removing the 3 zeros." And 2 hours later, oh, here's how we're doing it. And when you start seeing those two things in the same breath with official channels, you're looking at careful talk, I would call it. Hey, we don't have this, but here's how we're doing it. Is a way of warding off speculation while simultaneously setting up, saying, we have to be doing it. You don't spend 250 billion dinars printing new things and getting all this stuff ready and setting up your banks on digital rails and going through the Asakuda system for border payments and all that stuff, only to say, oh, we're just going to drop the 3 zeros, which is what they're doing now, and bring out lower currency, and it's not going to change purchasing power. No, that's a separate event. It's true, that's not going to change purchasing power, but it is putting the equipment in place to change purchasing power, because if that's all they were going to do, they could have done that a decade ago without setting everything else up first. So yeah, we're getting close. We've got a fiscal quarter coming up the end of September. We've got deadlines for who's controlling the guns in Iraq is the end of September, which basically ties directly into their sovereignty, if you will, which theoretically starts the time frame, at least according to one announcement that Trump made on pulling troops out from the region. But then he also said, well, we got to be paid back to get that going. So now you have end of fiscal quarter. And of course, next fiscal quarter is the end of this year. So we're only 36 days away from the end of this fiscal quarter, and then 3 months from the next one. And those are pretty likely timeframes. So we're watching them remove the 3 zeros process right now. They've got the laws, they've got this, they've got prime ministers, I think, appointed, just not really truly announced. That's a different layer because they're holding everything close to their chest, because Parliament's been corrupt for so long. But all this stuff is starting to stack together pretty tightly.
Now, Monty, let's also keep in mind September 15th is also the date that is teed up for the Clarity Act to be signed by the Senate.
Exactly.
So September is going to be a big month. I'm not expecting everything to go skyrocketing after that. We got to keep in mind that once the Clarity Act is signed, it's still going to be 180 days before it takes effect, unless Congress and Senate come together and they pass a bill to make the Clarity Act and the Genius Act effective immediately. That's the only way that's going to change. Now, what just happened last week while I was out fishing for salmon and tuna, they had a huge meeting at the White House. It was Brad Garlinghouse, who's the CEO of Ripple. They had the CEO of Chainlink. They had some members of the SEC and CFTC. Those are the two governing bodies that offered up to make rules for crypto in lieu of the Clarity Act not being passed. So everybody, when I came back to the beach, I'm looking at my messages, and I've got people telling me, "Oh my God, it's ripping," and I'm like, "What?" And then I look, XRP went up by 50 cents. And then I had people blowing me up. Hey, is it too late to buy? No, it's not too late to buy. It just would have been better if you'd bought it at $1 instead of $1.50. But $1.50 is still a bargain deal. I remember when Bitcoin was $1. I remember when it was 20 cents. And, if you missed the bus, well, hey, get some now. And mind you, this is just one man's opinion. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. But I'm just saying, get some so that you have something instead of being left empty-handed. And, this thing takes off and it goes $10, $20, $100. And then, that's when people are going to start looking at it and going, maybe I should get some of this XRP stuff or some XLM or, whatever the ISO coins, and I'm not going to rattle them all off. But if you don't know what they are, go Google ISO crypto coins, and it'll give you a list of about 8 or 9 coins. There's a few that aren't on there because they're in the process of getting certified as ISO compliant, right? But anyway, my point
And I would
being,
say,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was just going to say, I would say also think of it less as a bus. You didn't miss the bus. It's an open air trolley. And you might not be at the front of the trolley, but you can still hop on one of the other cars. It's not too late to get moving. You're just not as far ahead as you might have been.
Yes. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening in the coming days and weeks. I don't anticipate anything going parabolic. Honestly, where I really see this going is we're in the adoption phase, and then there's another phase where there's going to be a shortage, and that's because a lot of these big banks have already been buying up, for example, XRP. Japan and South Korea are going full-blown crypto. That has been in the news for the last couple of days. There's a lot of great stuff coming out of the Far East. I would say tune in and check it out. But if they're doing it, and those are two of the most major big financial movers in the world. South Korea, I mean, their economies are absolutely huge for the size of the country that they are. Both of them. They pale in comparison to the United States? Sure, but are they big movers? Absolutely. So if they're doing it, it's bound to end up here in the United States sooner than later.
Well, and I think the fact that they are doing it is motivation for Clarity Act to get moving, because Trump has made it clear he doesn't want the U.S. getting left behind. And like you said, they're voting on that, September 15th, which probably will codify a lot of what the SEC is already trying to do, because the SEC is filling in the gap. That's at 2:15 p.m. But what's also interesting is on that same date, that is the deadline for Iran Parliament to have submitted the 2027 budget. Well, wait a minute. What about the 2026 budget that has yet to be pulled in before that? So falls on the same day as that Clarity Act, which also falls in where they're putting in lower denomination notes on banknote paper, in part owned by Ripple and some of the other CBDC companies. And everything starts to connect.
The thing that came to my mind in terms of being too late, there's always another bus kind of thing, is that when the ISO 222 coins crypto became an item, and I'm thinking maybe 5 years ago, you could not go on Google. If you went on Google and you put in ISO 222 coins, there's no telling what would come up. But I'm just saying that now there's a large base of people, and growing, of people who understand that we are in the beginning stages of an absolute transformation from money that is debt slavery into money that is, what Big Bird was saying about claiming, about them taking all the money that's been stolen from us and giving it back to the people. In the end, in my opinion, it won't matter. We'll all have lots of money. However, $1.50 for XRP? Are you kidding me, man? It's still a steal. It's at 20 cents for XLM. And don't think that XLM is the sister, the little kid brother of XRP. XLM has always been a stellar investment, in my opinion, whether it's 20 cents or 8 cents or whatever it is. That if it goes to $1, it'll still be a great buy. But everyone, in my opinion, in this community should be invested in these coins. A lot of it isn't so much because you're going to make you'll make whatever it is. It's because you want to position yourself. You want to become a sovereign person. You want to become a person who is not a slave to the deep state. You want to claim your ability to operate. And I can just tell you that as somebody I pretty much trash my connection to the deep, my a friend of mine said, "Well, Ellie, you could improve your credit score." I'm like, I'm not going to spend 5 seconds of my life thinking about my damn credit score. I don't give a shit about the deep state or about reestablishing, a credit line with it. But however, being outside of the matrix, being able to invest in, like silver and gold and crypto will save the day for you. And the more baskets you have out there, the better off you are. Because like we had to go for a trip and we couldn't really afford it, so I cashed in a little bit of my XRP. It's not, it's not the thing. But what I'm saying is that if you want to operate outside of the matrix, this is a great way to to do the foundational exercises to build your muscles as an investor. It is so much to that point that everything to me is an investment. When I buy chickens, I talk to James. I say, this is a great investment. We got to get a rooster up here. It's just like, these are investments. Trees, we got another fruit tree we could clone. That's another investment. Everything. And you start to think of life in that way, instead of being a victim of, well, I only have this amount because I'm getting paid next week, this sort of thing, which we bounce between having, a little bit of money for my pension to having zero. We could go for a week or two and have not even have grocery money, but we don't freak out because we understand that we are in control of our money, and we are in control of our, we have this property. Will the deep state try to steal it from us? They already have. But we managed to pull it off. And it's having the courage to stand up and be yourself. And it's not like you're waiting for your parents to give you allowance money, man. You're standing on your own 2 feet, and you're saying, like, listen, I got a roll of silver over here. I got this. If I need to sell a couple of ounces of silver to pay for this, and if this comes up, and you're not so much victimized, like, well, can I get a loan now? I mean, in the beginning, I was like, yeah, can I get a loan? And they were just like, no, you cannot get a loan. We don't even want to talk to you. Who will give me a loan? And they get some guy, some Italian guy or a Jewish guy in the back rows, he says, I'll talk to you, man. Well, what's up? I'm like, well, yeah, I need a loan. Oh, what do you got? What do you got going? It's like, even he wouldn't give me a loan. So it's just like, but I that's why it's so important. It's not just the money that you're going to make 80% on your investment or anything like that. It's that you're investing into your own power, into your own sovereignty, into your own belief of yourself, and empowering yourself to have the freedom and the choices to move no matter what happens out there.
Absolutely. And, it goes back to the old adage that I picked up years and years ago when I was a young sailor. Some of the old heads were saying, hey, if you're not paying yourself at least 10% of your paycheck, pay yourself first before you do anything else. I mean, that was a good rule of thumb. I think I started paying myself. I joined the Navy at 21. I think I started really taking that on board when I was about 24, 25. And I started paying myself, I think, 11 or 12% of my paycheck into the TSP, Thrift Savings Plan, which is basically the military's version or the government's version of a 401k. But you're paying pennies on the dollar for the services. So it's not like having a financial advisor, excuse me. Two other nuggets I need to throw out there while I'm thinking about it. And these are rather ominous signs that something big is coming. When Fox News is airing the U.S. debt clock on live TV, that should tell you something. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of my friends and family that are like, oh, yeah, well, crazy big bird, he's got his full hat on. Yeah, I've been talking about U.S. debt clock for years. I've been following it. I've watched the evolution of this thing.
And the Easter eggs.
What's that?
I said, and the Easter eggs on the debt clock.
Yeah, exactly. There's a ton of information coming out on that website, usdebtclock.org. If you've never visited, go check it out. It's even got a an archive up at the top along the top bar. You can go back in time and you can go and see the evolution of the usdebtclock.org. Even more recently, and okay, this is a tertiary nugget of wisdom, and I'll get to the last one here in a second. The Somebody had posted about the debt clock. If you look at the year 2030, so I had to go advance, not the archive, but I advanced, and it showed the national debt in 2030 down to, I think, $29 million or $29 trillion. That really said a lot. So I really, it kind of begs the question, all right, so what's coming? How are we going to reduce this thing? And I think in 2034, it had it down to something like $11 trillion or something like that. Don't quote me on that. It's all over X. There's a fellow by the name of Echo X. I think you can find him at Echo DA Truth. And he's been posting about it for the last couple of days. Lastly, Trump posted a video made by Jim Rickards. If you don't know who Jim Rickards is, I personally, I really like the message the guy sends. It's hard for me to dig my teeth into it and really bite off on it. But when the president of the United States is posting this guy's video,
well, Jim Rickards has been a top advisor for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around for a minute. Now, the one thing that Jim Rickards is saying is that gold will be $10,000 potentially by the end of the year, or maybe even $20,000. So that goes hand in hand with the options. I think it's something like 38,000 options at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, CME, that have gold pegged to hit $20,000 by December. So people out there know something's coming. And if you're holding on to gold, you're holding on to silver, you're holding on to crypto, you're holding on to Dinar, look, one of those is a winning lottery ticket, in my opinion. So hold on to it. Don't sell it. Just wait. Good things are coming. I can feel it in my bones.
And there's that 20,000 number again. You know, Kim Clement in 2012, I think it was, said, watch 20,000. And then and everybody says, wow, the stock market, when it hits 20,000, because it hit 20,000 a couple years after that. But they never listened to the next thing he said. Look not to Wall Street, but pay attention. There's a couple of possibilities that have always crossed my mind on that. Number one is gold, 20,000 possibility. But the other thing is, when he was talking about that, he was talking about the mountain of debt and some things specific to that. If you go take a peek at some of Brandon Biggs' particular prophecies regarding, some of what's going on in the near future, he's talking about the Dow and Wall Street collapsing back to 20,000, and that could just as easily be that trigger. So it's not looking to Wall Street to bail it out, but it's paying attention to Wall Street, if you will. And I've often thought that because it went above 20,000 right away, and that obviously was not the trigger he was talking about. So it's not what most people are thinking about. So yeah, it's interesting too. You were talking about Besant, and one of the things in the debt clock. One of the things that he said in the last couple of days is he's saying, this $40 trillion is not that far out of line. It's manageable. We can find ways to bring that down. So personally, I think there's a lot more than meets the eye on what's going to happen, and those futuristic predictions are probably going to drastically change. That's just my opinion. But in the meantime, just looking at the trajectory of what they're talking about is in line with what Bent was saying over the weekend.
And I like T-Zilla's comment here. They said, I think part of what happened yesterday, it's likely countries are about to shed USA bonds from Operation Sandman and will buy it back. We'll buy it all back. I think it's partially preemptive plan. I agree. What the Treasury's been out there doing is they have been softening the blow from the Japanese reverse carry trade, buying up a lot of the bonds that they wanted to sit, that the Japanese wanted to sell and get rid of. It's almost like U.S. bonds are like kryptonite. So yeah, I agree with you, T-Zilla. Thanks for that plug.
Yeah, and Gerard's talking about signing UCC 1308. I'm familiar with that. Talking about the signature and obviously the SEC banknote paper for birth certificate and stuff. Some of those things. It's not that they don't have validity. It's that there's a lot of changes coming pretty soon between the Republic and the debt changing and asset backed. There's a whole lot of changes coming to that pretty soon. So I think that the status quo may not stay there. One thing I thought too that I just wanted to address, have had quite a few people over the last few days talking to me about, hey, what's going on? Is Iraq just doing a LOP? Is it this? Is it that? Because they're removing the 3 zeros, but we're not seeing the value. And I just, I wanted to reiterate, those are separate events. And it is my speculation that dropping the 3 zeros in the redenomination of the currency and in their pricing structure to match, which doesn't really affect the value directly. Yeah, it affects internal purchasing power, but that does a number of things. Remember in 2003, when they switched currency, they gave them 90 days. And after 90 days, your notes are a pile of paper trash. So that again, 90 days puts us out, pushing within 6 weeks of the end of the year as terms of fiscal quarters. Just speculation. But what they need to do is pull in some of that 70, 80 trillion extra dinars off the street. And if they give them X number of days to pull in things and switch to 3 zeros, or lose the value of that currency, and then you can haul it away in a wheelbarrow, it's not doing anything anymore. Well, that's the fastest way to reel stuff in off the street. But that giving it value, tying it to the dollar, completely separate event. And I think that pulling some of that in and setting up the equipment for the lower denoms before it actually pegs to the dollar, if you will, or pairs, maybe pairs rather than pegs, because pairs gives it the ability to float within a basket as opposed to a direct peg. But look at it this way. If all they were going to do is lop the 3 zeros, the currency is going somewhere to die. A country that expects its money to die is not spending all the time teaching how the money works, right? A country that's expecting the money to die, they're going to ration it, they're going to deny it, they're going to blame it. But what Iraq's been doing over the last week is exactly the opposite, right? The governor is telling Parliament that the stance is in transition. Economists have been holding up 50 years worth of charts naming the destination. Finance minister is requesting the microphone so they can talk about this, the old arrangement in public. So all of these things are in the same window, and they're talking to the citizens. They're not ignoring them. So if you look at that question of what the Iraq TV keeps circling, strengthen or collapse, essentially. And they're not setting up for a collapse. A currency collapses when the state stops defending the currency. Every single thing we're seeing them do is go in the opposite direction. They're sealing the borders against bulk cash. They're licensing payment platforms. They're counting the reserves on record while simultaneously telling you where they're short. And there's a reason for that. If you hold those two things into the same realm, they're telling us something very specific. And then, of course, now they're schooling the public on everything, the difference between, say, deleting the zeros and actually anchoring the value. Collapse is what neglect buys. Right now, the Iraqi dinar is literally the most attended to currency on earth from every nation. So that's a picture worth keeping. You've got all the neighboring currencies that are making changes with Syria, with Iran, etc. So just hang on to it a little bit longer and recognize that this is a multi-step process, right? Not necessarily parabolic right away, like Big Bird was saying. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is going to lead me into the next part of our discussion. Is I don't know if anybody here was paying attention, but when J.D. Vance, our vice president, was talking about how the U.S. dollar is no longer going to be the world reserve currency, I think what he was alluding to was the Federal Reserve note. He didn't say anything about the Treasury dollar. He didn't say anything about stable coins. So I'm inclined to believe that we're going to transition. We're going to have the U.S. Treasury dollar, or we'll have a stable coin in the measure of a dollar, USDC, USDT, what have you. But I truly believe where he was going with that was the Federal Reserve note is going to end, and we're going to move into a new form of money, whether it be digital or some sort of interim with the Treasury. I think there's something there. I think there's something to be said about that.
Well, and it definitely caught my attention that he made that statement, because he made that statement just 3 or 4 days after we talked a couple weeks ago about the dollar Federal Reserve note potentially losing its reserve status. We had a big discussion about that, and 3 or 4 days later he made that statement. And so, yeah, that's a good question. Meanwhile, they're wanting to drop that in value. And Joker Joe, I see here you talked about Mark Z has never said it's happening this week. I concur. I've known Mark a long time. I've chatted with him quite a few times. Good guy. He's got a good heart. And he does frequently say exactly what you're saying. Nobody knows the timing. All we can do is sit and watch the pieces and make some speculations on it. And he often does pass along other people's rumors about, well, they think it's going to be this or this. And he says, just hold on to it. Nobody knows the timing.
Yeah, I know people that have been saying for the last 23, 24 years, oh, it's any day now. Any day it's going to happen. Yeah, well, any day could be another 10 years from now. We don't know. Ellie, you're muted.
You're muted.
I resent the mindset that this induces in people, because if you spend all your time thinking about when is it going to happen, you're not doing anything. You're admitting that you're a helpless sheep, and you're waiting for, I find it very misleading in terms of like what I'm talking about before, about your sovereignty, about you being a person who is actively positioning themselves to create a future, not to be, not to, get blown into the future. You are an active participant in your own life. And that's why I resent this kind of thinking, because it misleads people. And so you're spending an hour a day on Mark Z thinking about, well, it could happen this week, but it's not really happening. It's like you should be spending that time buying chickens, checking out what trees you want to plant, living your life, creating relationships. That is nice, man. That's a salmon.
You're muted, Big Bird.
You're muted, Big Bird.
Go fishing, relax, and hi, Nancy.
Yeah. It's just my personal bent that too many people are wrapped up in, when is it going to go down? And that's the event that's going to change your life. But in effect, in my opinion, the event that's going to change your life is when you stand up and say, I am me. This is what I represent. This is what I stand for. And this is what I am actively creating, not what I am becoming a victim. The victim mentality has to drop for humanity. That's my opinion.
Well, I guess to kind of piggyback, and I know, Ellie, it's your show and you have a slightly different take on this, but to me, as a Bible believer, what you just said parallels what I see in Scripture. Everybody's sitting around waiting well, we don't have to worry about any of this. We're going to be raptured out of here before trouble comes, blah, blah, blah. And that's not what I get out of Scripture. What I get out of Scripture is, hey, you got a job to do, right? Tarry until I come. Stay busy. Should you not be about your Father's business? And so from a spiritual standpoint, I would literally say the same message.
Yeah, well, thanks. Enjoyed. That's great, Gerard. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, in my community that I come from, the Orthodox community in New York, if you told them, how are you today? They're like, well, I'll be better when Mashiach comes. It's like, and it's just that attitude that I lived with for 25 years that drives me nuts. I'm like, no, I'm not waiting for Mashiach to come. I don't, if Mashiach comes, when he comes, when Jesus, when Mashiach comes, when the Mahdi comes, whatever you believe in, that's great. When the Dinar comes, I think it's all the same thing. It's the mindset of being a victim, of waiting for reality to come in and create you. Whereas like a guy, I love this guy, Big Bird, man. He's out there fishing in off the coast of Washington. I mean, that to me is like he's catching his own food for his family. That's
he didn't tell you he went there because he was exiled.
He's thrown out of his house, but
that was his survival.
Yeah, I just
kidding.
feel that like this is the kind of like my main shtick on all this, and my main drive in life is just keep creating, keep producing. Yes, invest in XRP, invest in chickens, whatever it is, but invest in yourself, in your own future. Don't be, running scared. Don't be thinking it's too late to invest in XRP, for example, or gold or silver. And by the way, I'll run this by you guys, but I still think, I mean, I got into investing. I was very attracted to silver and gold mining stocks. That if you don't have enough money to buy a significant amount of gold and silver, you could still spend a little bit of money on a couple of shares of a reputable mining stock. Or,
Oh, and especially with the demand on. Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, or even better, I mean, in my mind, is to live in a place where you could stumble on a rock and find a piece of gold.
Well, yeah, and especially with the demand on silver, with how much it takes for electric cars, for missiles, et cetera, et cetera. Any mining stocks in silver right now that assuming it's a good mining company has their head screwed on straight, is bound to be doing pretty well. And it's interesting you talking about stumbling on gold. That was one of the things too in one of Brandon Bigg's recent prophecies, how people would be, especially in places like Colorado, actually mining for, or panning rather, for gold, trying to find something because of the increase in value that's coming to it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
exciting.
mean,
And the whole concept of taking something from the ground, taking God's gifts and converting it into resources for yourself and your family, to me is just so exciting. Like catching fish, man. I mean, to go out there and catch a bunch of fresh fish and freeze it up, man, that's like, does it get any better than that? In other words,
no.
live your life. We out here in the desert, the three of us, the three members, three people who live out here, we every day we eat fruit. When we bite down on either a mango or a nectarine, we look at each other and we go like, does it get any better than this?
And
What
what
else?
about your fresh fish out there in the desert? How's the fishing?
Wouldn't stay fresh for long, but yeah. But
No, the nice thing about going and getting your own fish is you know where it's been. You know who's handled it. I have a huge problem, especially being here in the center of the United States in Colorado, where, if you're going to get any kind of seaborne fish, whether it be salmon, whether it be tuna, sockeye, what have you, you're going to end up not knowing how long that fish sat in the net, how long it sat in the cargo hold, in a freezer, how many hands have touched it, did it develop, did the cooler go bad and they try to sell it off, and is it loaded with parasites? You have really no idea. For me, going out and catching it and spending the money to have a couple of days and kick back, live my life away from this stupid thing, and just being around a bunch of other people that enjoy fishing, to me that's fun. I'm living my life. And then at the end of the day, I go home and I brought home 40 pounds of fish. That's going to feed us till next spring, and seriously,
No,
Or
I
it's
do
going to
this.
make your garage stink.
fresh frozen fish? Are you kidding me? Salmon and tuna? Does it? I mean,
Yeah.
that's like mangoes and nectarines. Does it get any
Yeah.
better than that? I mean, what else does a person want in life? What would five Maseratis be better than the taste of the mango or a taste of fresh caught tuna? I mean, it's like I think the whole revaluation is not just in terms of valuation of money. And by the way, one of the things I think was implied but not explicitly stated, at least I didn't hear it, is that the new currency is going to be asset backed. It's not going to be airy fairy. It's worth a dollar because it's worth a dollar. It's going to be, you're going to be able to exchange it for a piece of gold. I think so. And this is also biblical. I mean, in the Bible, everything was silver. The tabernacle was made of silver and gold. Everything inside of it. These are things that have intrinsic value, like fresh fish.
Well, here's something else to think about is, the Federal Reserve note has been printed into perpetuity to the point where it's lost over 97% of its value. Okay, even though it's funny money and it used to be backed by gold. And then there was the Saudi deal that started in June of 1974. That was a 50-year contract. So then we had the petrodollar. What has it been backed by for the last 2 years? Nothing. It's been backed by absolutely nothing. And they're just printing it to the hilt so that they can buy up these bonds, so that they can, ease the reverse carry trade with Japan. You know, what I envision in the future is these stable coins. They're going to be able to keep a track on how many are out there, how many are in circulation, and then they can decrease what's out there in the circulating supply, and therefore increase the value. So people are going to want the U.S. dollar digital tokens, right? Because it's, like you said, it's going to be asset backed, whether it be by real estate, and then that's a whole other discussion. We can get into tokenization, but you're going to have these real world assets, RWAs, that are backing these stable coins, and that's really where you're going to find the value. And it's not going to just be, funny money printed forever and ever and ever, that it's going to lose value. So I think what we have to look forward to is a very bright future, not in debt, but in credit.
I speculate the possibility that what we're seeing right now with the Trump administration is, all the stuff that we've talked about going through Iran and Venezuela and Cuba and Ukraine and all these various places, and the Vatican and London and, even with North Korea and all this stuff, to dethrone the British banking empire, the Rothschild banking system. And so if I follow that one more layer to what you're talking about, I speculate that maybe if you were getting ready to bankrupt on it, because frankly, if the debt's all fake, I don't know, some people might be considering running up the credit card to its max before you bankrupt out on it and leave that debt in the hands of, frankly, the people who created it in the first place. I don't know. That's at least what I would consider going on possibly in the background before you just dump it all and then go asset backed. It makes sense. Help them finance the very restructuring that pulled it out from under them.
Right, and that's not to say that the assets that these 13 bloodline families and all their cronies own haven't been seized by the U.S. Treasury under executive orders.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Oli, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. It's exactly what I'm saying. But at the heart of it, after you remove all the layers, what we're really talking about is saving the children. Is that 8 million kids go missing a year? Could there be a bigger tragedy, a bigger shame on humanity that we allow this many kids to nothing could be worse. So we're not just talking about revaluation. We are talking about regular money, but we're talking about the end of this whole system of slavery, of pedophilia, and frankly, in my mind, as somebody who used to live in Tennessee, nothing could be more of a symbol of this kind of, in my opinion, of pedophilia than the death, so-called death of what's her name? Dolly Parton. Yeah,
Dolly Parton. Yeah, I was talking about just a few months ago with Dolly Parton did not have much longer. But
she looks like she's 20. She's obviously sucking down some serious quantities of adrenal chrome, and this has been going on for years and years. And actually, my beloved Deepa says she's not.
We lost him. But that thing about the trafficking, the children trafficking, 8 million children going missing a year and such. That is near and dear to my heart. That's one of my probably my biggest hot button. And really the biggest reason I'm happy to see that this deep state, this elite, everything being dethroned, because frankly, that one issue is the driving core factor for everything else to me. Is these people are sick. Q has said it, Trump has said it, lots of people have said it, lots of people like in Hollywood, like Mel Gibson, Corey Feldman, and all this kind of stuff have said it over and over. You're seeing it. People keep saying, "Oh no, it's conspiracy theory," no matter how many people say it, and yet it is. These people are sick, and it's getting rid of that is key.
Scourge of the earth, man. You and I are fathers. We get together on the weekends. We have brunch together. We bring our kids. I couldn't think of a more beautiful thing to celebrate other than children. And for
Amen.
these sick people, and really that's what they are. They're sick. They're mentally twisted. They would do anything for a buck, to include harming a child. And I think it's absolutely despicable. And there's no room for people like that on the earth. I think God is doing his thing. He's going through, he's cleansing the earth. He's getting rid of these sick people, where, I really think we're going to be living in a much better world. Now, I've got a few ideas of my own, what I'd like to do to people like that. But unfortunately, that would land me in an orange jumpsuit. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's scourge of the earth, and there's so many layers. The children are the future of this, but just getting rid of that. And if you go through, what it takes to be successful in politics, in Hollywood, around the world with this, it goes deep, deep, deep. And there's a handful of documentaries that are hard to keep up on the internet because they get taken down, pretty much every chance they get. But yeah, it's near and dear to the children, and I think that's exactly right. It's near and dear to God's heart to get the
There he
children.
is.
Sorry
What
about that.
happened, Hansel?
I was my bad. My power. I ran out of power talking too much. I was thinking, but yeah, Dolly Parton is to me a symbol, and it's really all about the kids at the end of the day. And this whole opera. I mean, if you think about the width and the breadth of the swamp, how they're all connected, how all the corporations, all the medical, the pharmaceuticals, the food production, the banking industry, the legal situation, the educational situation, even your government in small places like Kingman. I mean, the corruption, the filth that has been running the world, with like traffic tickets, everything, every aspect, the insurance industry. I went today to we just bought a wood stove, and it has a very odd shaped chimney connection. So I went to all the usual stores, and they said we can't help you. You need to go to a fabricator, to an HVAC guy. So we're driving around. I saw an HVAC. I don't know. I'm new to Kingman. I saw this company, and I walked into this big, like it looked like a fabricating place, and I said, do you have a piece like this? And they said, well, we might have a piece like this. And anyway, we got in a conversation. At the end of it, I said, "Oh, maybe, and you could help me with if I need to get an air conditioner for my new house." And they said, "Well, just give me the plans." And I said, "Well, I don't have plans." Well, they said, "How do you build? How can you build a house without plans?" I mean, this is the insanity. I said, "I just build it. I'm building it. I mean, I don't need plans." I mean, but this is the kind of world that we are leaving. We are leaving this bureaucratic, nonsensical, non-republic, this quagmire of laws. And they said, well, that's not legal. You can't do that. You can't build without plans. I'm like, well, no one's coming up here, no inspections. It says still it's not legal. I'm like, what kind of an asshole are you that you believe that it's more important to have the right stamp on my plans than to build a decent, nice house? And you won't even come up here in air conditioning. But this is how the layers and layers of this quagmire, that we're so busy untangling the web of nonsense around us, that we don't have time to deal with the fact that 8 million kids go missing every year. And that's what I think at the end of the day, this whole revaluation is a revaluation in basic understanding and human decency. And that's where, of course, the Republic goes in. And I made all these connections. I made the connection to Big Bird and Monty through the Republic, because the Republic is the umbrella that connects us all with a government that makes sense, where you're not going to have, I'm not going to have inspectors crawling into my septic tank to say, I'm like, get out, my septic tank is my, it's none of your business. Is your well certified? It's like, I drink my water from the well, whether it's certified or not. But this is the world that we've come into and we've accepted. And now we are reevaluating not just the currency, but the whole focus of and we're becoming sovereign citizens and members of the republic on the planet.
Maybe they were just trying to get into your septic tank because they just wanted to go home.
You want to go home? Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I'm like, these
Michelle,
people. Yeah.
I see Michelle Dolan here. She wanted to hear more about Dolly. So, it's funny you asked about that. And I don't mean to detract from the current portion of our conversation, but Trump made a post and he said, very sad to report Dolly Parton, one of the ever greatest country singers and far beyond ever, has just passed away. This is a true loss for millions of people. There has never been anyone like her, should I say him, and never will. In her honor, I am lowering the American flag throughout the United States for a 1-week period beginning tonight at 6 p.m. Now, I've never seen the flag dropped in the evening to half mast. Now, to me, this is a calm. This says something. Something's going on. Now, whoever reposted this, the debriefing 17, said 6 p.m. tonight, huh? What lands between 6 p.m. August 25th and 6 p.m. September 1st, 2026? That's the question. I'm still trying to figure that portion of it out. But going back to Dolly Parton, she had Dollywood, right? What is Hollywood notorious for? Pedophilia. I think Dolly Parton was probably one of the kingpins and was trafficking children through Dollywood. She was using it. Yes, I am saying Dolly was a guy. If you go and look anatomically at the younger Dolly, the bigger square jaw, bone structure, the square wrist with the man hands, got the big long index or the middle finger with the shorter index finger. Never had kids. Okay. That should be a big indicator. Oh, well, maybe that's just the lifestyle that he or she wanted to live. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you're born a man, you cannot give birth to a child. I don't care what the libtards say. There's only two sexes, the male and female. Anyway, I really think that Dolly really started to show his true colors towards the end of the last couple of years, because one, Dolly started coming out about the transgender movement in a big way and was promoting it, was okay with it. And then more recently, I guess, what's his name? Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are having a kid. And I think Taylor Swift's a dude anyway. They're all part of that evil cabal where they worship Baphomet. They're into transgenderism, sacrificing children. I mean, Taylor Swift was nobody.
Cannibalism.
Cannibalism, yeah, eating kids. I mean, it's really disgusting what these people are into. But moreover, you look at Dolly Parton and the symbolism that she was doing with her fingers when she said, "Oh, I'm so happy that my friends Travis and Taylor are having a baby, and I want that baby." Well, this may be going down the rabbit hole here, but I think what Dolly was talking about was being reincarnated into that baby or sacrificing that child so that they could continue their stardom.
Yeah, some pretty sick stuff. I mean, that's the thing that's the layer, in my opinion, that a lot of podcasters may miss, and that a lot of people may be missing. But I think in our community, we're pretty familiar with the level of evil that we're dealing with. It's not just that there is this web of toxic connections, like when Scott Bessent talks about, between Iraq and Iran, and the corporations, and the legal firms, and the liberals, and George Soros, and all these. It's not just that. It's just that they are based at their heart, at the highest level, in satanic practices.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's Dolly in a nutshell, folks. I know it's kind of hard to palate, but I mean, if you get on board with it and you actually go and look at pictures of the older version of Dolly, when back in the 70s, maybe even back into the 60s, you'll see the square jaw, uh, and you'll see that there's tons and tons of cosmetic surgery done. I mean, who knows? Maybe she went and had the nip tuck. I don't know. But I believe Dolly Parton and many other figures in Hollywood, especially you look at the professional swimsuit models. A lot of those are dudes. They've gone over to Thailand or Mexico. They've gone and had the nip tuck. They get their boobs done, shave the Adam's apple, but you cannot hide the man hands.
Yeah, and anyone saying the amount of money compromised in the rest of Kabbalah doing, anyone making that amount of money is compromised. Right, that could be. And but the perverted thing about this is that at least a couple of years ago, so much of America was wrapped up in yeah, during Trump's first term, what these mainstream media, actor, Hollywood types, how people would hang on to Bruce Springsteen's every word, and like as if this guy knew something, and looked up to these people as gods. And we are coming, in my opinion, into a total revaluation of revalues of, like Montemus says, of biblical values, where a person can sit and thank God over the delicious taste of a mango, or the taste of a fresh piece of tuna. That we are coming back into a reality that's going to be so beautiful and so real, that we're leaving this artificial construct called the Matrix, and we're coming into really the promised land. We're coming into a time where the republic will be our form of governance, and nothing but is coming, and it's going to be more beautiful, in my opinion, what I'm seeing, than anything we can even imagine. It's just going to
I
be
think the average person has no real perspective or idea of just how much oppression and slavery we have been under for a long time, until the veil comes off, the scales come off.
Yeah, we've been given the illusion of being free, sending our sons and daughters off to war to go and die for what? So the rich can get richer. I mean, I'm one of them. I went there. And I can tell you, I saw with my own eyes. I woke up in 2007, boots on ground in Iraq. I saw oil bubbling up out of the ground, $35 plates of food per person per day. It's how many states have a full republic lineup? Not as many as we'd like. It really depends on how many counties are in each state. I can tell you, for example, Colorado, we've got 64 counties. We need at least 26 of those stood up. Currently, I believe we've only got 4 or 5 that are completely stood up. And one of the bigger ones that I represent, El Paso County, we've been stood up since 2012, and we've made some amendments to our guiding documents. But anyway, back to the point that, I think what we see in the future in the Republic is a much smaller government, where we, the people, are going to govern ourselves. We're going to be sovereign. We're not going to have this big corporate structure hanging over our heads, keeping us as debt slaves, sending our children off to wars that, have no point. Why did we need to be in Afghanistan for 20 years? I could go on for hours about that, but, what would we really benefit from? And this takes us back to last week's conversation where, hey, people are having 6, 7, 8 kids. Farming becomes a thing again. Trades are starting to really come back online. I mean, more and more kids are going to trade schools now instead of traditional colleges, because what's $200,000 going to buy you? A degree in gender studies, and you're going to end up a barista at a coffee shop? No, a lot of these kids are starting to understand. They're getting the picture. They're like, okay, I'm 24 years old. I'm still living in my mom's basement. It's time to move on to something else. I'm going to go to trade school and become an electrician or a carpenter, where I can make, in excess of $100,000 a year. I know people that are doing that, and they're doing very well for themselves. Heck, I know a couple of electricians that have their own companies, and they're making more than I do. And I'm a defense contractor. I do pretty good for myself. I'm not bragging, but it just goes to show that people are looking for these things, these jobs that are going to put food on the table, and you're going to be able to feed your 6, 7, 8 kids and grow, and you're gonna have this beautiful family. We're gonna have a beautiful country again. I really envision this, in the next 10 to 20 years, where hopefully I'll be looking down at my kids and they're starting their own families, and I'm helping them move along. So, how about going back to the Continental Congress? Well, I can't really speak to that right now. Anyway, fellas, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Just to say that we're heading for a beautiful future, and just continue. And I know I put this message out daily, but just continue. Don't get distracted by the noise around you. Don't get distracted by the people saying that just hold on a little longer, you'll be rich. Do what you want to do now. You don't have to wait. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're showing the world that we're out here. We don't have gobs of money. I don't have money to hire a contractor to come up here and build everything. So I'm building it myself. And everyone has the two hands, and everyone has the ability to create a life that they really believe in. I mean, food production for us is as important as building a house. We are very focused on having the right kinds of fruit trees, having the right kind of nut trees, of being able to clone different trees, and we're experimenting, and we make mistakes, and we get wiped out by certain types of critters, and then we come back and we redesign everything. And this is to me the joy of living, is to be an active participant, an active creator, and instead of living in this kind of vicarious world where like I said, in the old days, the actors and the actresses, they were the ones, it's like, no, they're a bunch of idiots. They're all addicted to adrenochrome, and they're eating kids, man. You have the goods, and you do not want to eat their food. You do not want to get involved with their seed oils or anything like that. You want to be able to produce, for me, and since my partner is really her whole focus is, because she has eczema, is on eating clean food, of staying away from microplastics. We don't have any plastics up here. She won't even let me get regular insulation in the house because it's crafted by the creeps. So we're creating, actively creating a new world. Don't wait. Just do it. Go for it, man.
Well, and especially now with like alpha-gal and the mRNA and so on. Yeah, there's a lot of things going in the food corruption. I was just wanted kind of to wrap up just briefly on Gerard's comment about Continental Congress. I'm not sure I understand the point. It was really kind of an interim Congress. I mean, you did first Continental Congress, pre-declaration, second Continental Congress, which actually adopted the declaration. They put out the olive branch petition. They kind of managed the war effort and so on. But really, it was just more of an interim piece of colonies coming together. So I'm not sure what that would benefit that would be over, say, the Republic, which obviously is in the restoration process.
Yeah, what we're aiming to do in the Republic right now is we've just created interim positions. It doesn't really take much of your time whatsoever. I think at most I'm putting a couple hours a week into it, and I'm talking like 2 or 3. So there's not a terrible amount of legwork that has to go into it. Now, if you're standing up your county, that's going to take a little bit more work. You're going to have a bit of a learning curve. There's some books you have to read. And by that I mean there is required reading. Some books that were written by David and Jean Hertler, who have been in the Republic for decades, and God bless them because those books are fantastic. I'd highly recommend anybody that wants to join the Republic look into Restored Republic, or we've got a website, republicforusa.org. Please go check it out. It doesn't cost anything to sign up. If you're anywhere near as American as Monty and Ellie and I are, go in, sign up, put your name on there. If you want to go check out a meeting, go for it. There's no requirement. It's just simply you want to participate and you want to see what's going on. And these interim positions are just simply placeholders for when we have the Republic elections. These people are going to stand. We're going to stand it up. But then once we've had those elections and people have been elected freely and fairly, we step in. We step back into the shadows. We're out of the limelight. We're not doing this for fortune or fame. We're doing it because we love our country.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the push for sovereignty, for really being in charge of your own destiny, is taking part in this. I mean, I also spend a little time each week dealing with the Republic, but it's so exciting to really be a participant in your own life, not just living vicariously through the media or through X or whatever it is, to really be a player in your own life.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Ellie, are we going to play a song, buddy?
I don't think I've been having so much trouble playing my songs, but yeah, maybe I just want to remind everyone about LifeWave. I will try. Let's see if we can do it.
Living in the city, I was paying down my bills. One flat tire and the whole thing went to hell. Credit cards for groceries, I'm deep in debt again. It's time to split this scene, walk with you, my friend. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. They stole our money, but they couldn't stop the plan. Let's go together, playing with the band. Leaving the matrix, we're heading for the promised land. Stopped paying taxes, your insurance I don't need. The medicines are killing us, hospitals grow like weeds. Moved into paradise, I don't need no gassy cars. Fake news, endless wars, a satanic legal bar. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. They stole our money, but they couldn't stop the plan. Let's go together, playing with the band. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. My friends all tell me I lost control, left my wife and job just to run down rabbit holes. But I can tell you one thing about my fall. Where we go one, we go all. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. They stole our money, but they couldn't stop the plan. Let's go together, playing with the band. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. Leaving the matrix, we're heading for the promised land.
You know, I don't think I'll ever get tired of that song, man.
I wrote that, by the way. I finished it as I was leaving New York City. I mean, it was just, we drove from New York City down to Nashville to finish up a few little pieces of the song. But we are coming, I mean, just to out of respect and love for Montimus, this is biblical, man. We are coming into the Republic. We're coming into biblical times. We're coming into an era where the right things matter, where things make sense, where children are valued. I mean, I don't know if you heard me say this, Big Bird, but I say in the future, if one kid, think about it, one kid goes missing somewhere on the planet, the whole world, the whole humanity will shut down until that kid is found and returned. I mean, but 8 million a year, and we don't even. We're so busy trying to pay our car payments and our bills and everything else and food. I mean, it's the inflation is out of hand. But we're coming into a biblical era where all this nonsense, and maybe we had to go through this kind of real despair and real disturbing, sick, satanic life in order to blossom into the new world where we can all really appreciate the flower-like structure of beauty and fresh fish, man.
And fresh fish.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why the Lord let us go through the last, the 4 years of Obama 3 and some of the other stuff is you have to go into the darkness to wake some people up. And some people aren't going to wake up, but you can't get them all.
No, and unfortunately, I think for whenever this revelation comes to be, I think there's going to be some people that just can't handle it, and they're going to take care of business themselves. And it's really sad to say, but and for others, they're just going to be dumbfounded. They're going to be like, I can't believe this. All this was going on, for the last 10, 20, 30 years of my life. In some cases, people that are in their 60s, 70s, that are going, oh my God, I had thoughts. I kind of had an inkling, but I never knew. But now here it is in front of me, and it's going to be jaw dropping when it does happen. But for those of us that have been awake, that are looking around and going, when is this movie going to end? Folks, I'm right there with you. I've been awake since 2007, and it was really hard to finish those last 13 years of my career in the military because I didn't have anybody like I do now, like with Monty and Ellie. I can have great conversations with these guys. They're constructive. We go down some rabbit holes. We tease some ideas. It's fun, but at the same time, it's reality. And for some people, it's just too far-fetched a truth for them to really grasp onto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I know you sound like a broken record. Don't wait. Don't wait for the EBS. Don't wait for Mark Z. Don't wait for the Dinar. Don't wait for XRP. Just go live your life. Go fishing.
Live, man. Live.
Eat some mangoes, man, if you want to have a good time.
Eat some
All right.
mangoes and salmon. Those go hand in hand.
There you go, man.
All right, gentlemen.
All right. Well, thank you so much for putting up with us, and I really enjoyed it, and God willing, we'll get to do it next week. The amount of change between last week and this week is phenomenal, and between this week and next week, it'll be another exponential, series of movements in the right direction. So everyone should have a great night. May force be with you. May you realize that you are the force. May source be with you. May you realize that you are the source of your own future, of your own. You don't have to wait for anyone's permission. You can just keep moving ahead. So let's get out there with a big smile on our face and